All right, we are live. Welcome everybody to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode number 579. It is the first episode in 2026. Let's see. We got a couple of quick announcements. Gonna say hi to the guys, and then we will jump into things. So, Chris, how you doing today?
Doing good. Had a pretty good start in the new year. It's a bit cold here. I think we had like minus 14 degrees Celsius, so
Jesus.
Oh, wow.
it's quite freezing here. Otherwise, yeah, I'm sitting in the warm and doing quite well otherwise.
Awesome. Yeah, I've got a new monitor set up, and so I've got my webcam like between two monitors, and everything's all weird. But I was like, well, new year, time to get the kinks worked out and upgrade the system. So, well, we're not freezing here anymore. We're just above. It's been super cold rain though, which has been kind of gross. All the snow's going away. But Bradley, how you doing? And what's the weather like for you?
Been warm, actually, crazy warm, which has been nice, but I've been sick. I contracted norovirus at a restaurant on Saturday, and it had me on my knees for 4 days. No kidding. Just today's the first day I felt better since Saturday night. I woke up in the middle of the night, and ever since 4 days of just agony. It was miserable. And man, I even did some research on the norovirus. That is 100% what I got. And I got it. And they say the third most common place to contract it is restaurants. And so I'm not eating at restaurants until March when it subsides. Like I'm done, at least in the colder climates, because that's where it lasts. But I haven't been able to go outside and enjoy the weather at all, which kind of sucks because it's, I've got so much yard work and stuff I could be doing while it's nice in the middle of January, which is weird. You know what I mean? So I feel like I'm missing out on an opportunity, but fortunately I feel better today. So here I am. And by the way, now I know why there's very few questions. We didn't have the redirect set back to the question form. It was still set to the last webinar because we were off for 2 weeks or whatever. So, or a week at least. So that's why we didn't have many questions. So guys, just a heads up, any attendees today, post questions. We got one question we're going to cover. And then, I can just cover some other things that I'd like to talk about, but anybody attending, feel free to just post questions and comments because we should have plenty of time to get to that today. So
definitely. Awesome. Well, then I just got a couple quick announcements. I'll put the links into the chat as well. But if you're not familiar with some of the things that Semantic Mastery offers, we have the Local Mastery newsletter. This is a weekly paid newsletter where you can get 5 to 7 actionable local SEO insights every week, along with action items for each. So you can implement something or you can pass it off to your team and get it implemented. But like I said, this is all presented in a newsletter. You can read this in under 30 minutes and get this stuff put into place. We also have the Local Ops SEO Blueprint. You can find that at localops.semanticmastery.com. And this is just kind of a systemized approach to local SEO success. Highly recommend checking that out. And of course, we have the Mastermind. If you're an agency owner, you want to grow and you want to be around other people doing the same things and have direct access to Bradley, mastermind.semanticmastery.com. Great place to be. Check it out. If you have questions, you can always come to Hump Day Hangouts before you join, and I would be happy to chat with you about that. So, all right, guys, other than that, if you got anything, now's the time, or we can jump into question. Yeah, jump into question.
Yeah, good question. That's right. Yeah, I mean, we can cover that. And I see one of our attendees does have a question, so post it, and we'll come back and answer that in just a moment. So I'm not even going to pull up the screen. It really doesn't make sense. I'm just going to read the question, and then I'll answer it, and then perhaps that'll we'll kind of meander away from there to some other topics. We'll see what happens. Question on cannibalization theory with an example. If we have a definitive tummy tuck procedure page and we publish a blog article that discusses the topic but does not use the exact match entity tummy tuck in the SEO title or H1 and avoids procedure style intent, do you consider that semi-safe from cannibalization? Yes, that should be. See, that's a great question, and that's coming from, I believe, Dave. Sorry, I'm trying to find the questions for him again. There it is. Let me move that in the right spot. That's from a guy named David. Okay. So David asked that question. It's a great question. And so you understand, I mean, I'm glad you asked the question because that is the proper way to blog. And the problem is that I see in white label servicing, I'm constantly analyzing other agencies' work. And a lot of agencies still are publishing blog posts consistently for their clients. And I understand why. I 100% understand why. It's a repeatable deliverable, right? So it's a revenue generator for the agency to publish blog posts. But the problem is without now, because of the way that the algorithm has shifted so much, and I say now, it's been years now, it's been multiple, at least 3 or 4, I think 4 years now since the algorithm shifted. Time flies, so it's all a blur to me, but it's been at least 3. I think it's been 4 years now. It has been 4 years. Anyway, so when I say now because the algorithm has shifted, no, 4 years ago when the algorithm shifted, that became less and less effective. And now it's not the proper thing to do unless you are blogging properly, correctly, which means blogging in a strategic way that does not produce competing pages, right? That's the problem. Even cannibalization has kind of subsided a bit. In other words, 2 years ago, cannibalization was quite drastic. It was very clear when cannibalization was occurring. And Ted Kubitis has the Cora, but he has Cora, which he has a Cora Lite, which is the version that I like to use because it had the SERP volatility tester, which was basically a cannibalization test. And the way that worked is you would plug in a search query, and if it's for local, you would also plug in the geographic not the geo modifier, but it would geolocate the browser. It might even append it to the query. I can't remember what the actual query was, but what it would do is would pull up the top 100 results for the search query, and it would do it 10 times back to back, like with a slight delay in it or whatever. But you would, within just a matter of a minute or two, you would get the report. And by the way, you could set that to do less number of times that it performed that search or more, or whatever. But I just always left it at the default, which was 10 back to back in succession, the same search query, and it would just capture a snapshot and basically a snapshot of the top 100 results. And it would show at the top of the PDF report that it creates. It would show at the top of the report that the specific search query that you would put you would put the client or the target URL in, the client's URL that you were trying to analyze into it, and it would show where that page URL appeared in the top 100 results for each of those 10 search queries. So there would be like a 10 kind of numbers with a comma between them that would show, search 1, the URL might have been in position 3, search 2, 3, search 3, 11, search 4, back to 3 again, search 5, 14 or something like that. Sometimes there'd be X's, which means it didn't appear at all for that particular search instance. And what that was showing was that, it would also find another URL that would also from the same domain. So you'd put the domain in and it would identify page URLs from that domain that ranked for that specific search query. And when I say rank, I mean, given an impression in the top 100 results. It doesn't mean it's ranking, right? It just means it's referenced within the top 100 results. And so it would put the URL, and sometimes you'd even see 3 URLs in that kind of block that was for the page URLs from that specific domain. And then it would show the X's, and in other words, for each URL, if there was 2, there would be 2 lines of those 10 numbers with the commas between them, which was showing the positioning of each of those page URLs in the search results for any given search instance. Okay. And so if there were 2 URLs, then like I said, if the first URL showed in the first search instance, right? So the first number in that string of 10 numbers with commas separating them, it would have, let's say 3 in position, the first URL was position 3 in the first search, and the second URL would have an X. Then maybe search 2, as my previous example, would have 3 again for the first URL. Well, then the second URL would have an X. But then the third search instance would have said, I think I said 11, position 11. Well, that would have been the other URL, and that first URL would have an X. So the second URL would have XX11. The first URL would have 33X. Do you understand? And it would do that for the entire 10 searches or however many you set it for. That was cannibalization. That was indicating or showing clear evidence of cannibalization because Google was only selecting one page from the site to serve for a given search instance at any one time. You understand? That's cannibalization. But what I've seen happen over the last 2 years is that Google now will show more than one page from the same domain in the search results. But when there's more than one page ranking for this or given an impression for the same search query, they're typically lower. Both of them are going to be lower in the search performance than or the search results, than if there had only been one URL relevant to that query, in which case it would have ranked higher than the top ranking of the 2 when there was multiple URLs from the same domain for the same search query. hopefully that makes sense without a visual aid. But the point that I'm trying to make is kind of true cannibalization is, I haven't seen that much at all over the last couple of years, but I see competing pages all the time. And the vast majority of that is coming from blog posts. And by the way, you can see that plain as day in an organic rank tracker report. Like I use Bright Local for that. But if you look in Bright Local and it's a search query and it has a little, arrow that you can point in the Bright Local report, little arrow next to the search query, and you click on that, it will open that up, expand that, and it will show how many page URLs on that domain specifically are ranking or given an impression, or which position they're ranking for. And so you can oftentimes see, like, for example, it'll be like for, let's just say Tree Service Pikeville. We're just going to use that as an example. Tree Service Pikeville, it might show on the single line with a little arrow until you click the arrow to expand that. You only see the one line, which would show, Google Organic, Google Mobile, and it would show, let's just say for that same example I used before, position 3. Let's just assume that both the organic and the mobile were ranking in the same position. So position 3. But then you click that drop down arrow and it expands, and then you'd see that other URL that in the example I said was second URL position 11. So you would see 3 and 11. Okay, does that make sense? And that is a clear indication. And by the way, if you hover your cursor in Bright Local over the position number, the ranking position number, a little pop-up appears that shows the URL that was ranking for that in that position for that query. And so you could hover over each of those, position 3 and position 11 in this example, and it would show you the page URLs. And what you typically see would be like the actual the page, like the instead of a post, the page would be ranking in 3 and the post would be ranking in 11 in this example. That's not always the case. Sometimes the post would be ranking in 3 and the page would be ranking in 11. But either way, that is indicating that there are competing pages, because there are 2 pages competing for the same search query from the same domain. Do you understand? And so that is a clear indication of competing pages. And what I've always said was that had there only been 1 page relevant to that query, it would have likely been in position 1 or 2 instead of 3 or 11. Do you get what I'm saying? Because now it's 1 page. And when Google has multiple pages to select from the domain, because there's multiple pages targeting the same query or very similar queries, which, by the way, that's keyword optimization. Keyword optimization was, we used to all do this, me too, right? We would go out and build or build a separate page or post on the site for every single search query that we wanted to rank for, right? Because it's an entity-based algorithm, that's not how we should optimize now. We should optimize for entities, and an entity has a whole group of search queries that are related or associated with that entity. And so if you optimize at the entity level, then all of the search queries that are already associated with the entity are now relevant to that 1 page, even if the phrase itself is not explicitly published on the page. You see what I'm saying? So that's why the cannibalization, and now that's been reduced, but competing pages has kind of increased considerably. That's why. Because if you optimize a top level page, like a product or service page or a location page for entities, which I call topic or category optimization, right? So Google Business Categories are how I optimize for, because that's broad. And Google Business Categories can be a single entity, but oftentimes it's multiple entities combined to create 1 category. So if you optimize at a Google Business Category level, there's a whole group of search queries associated with that category. So if you optimize a service page for a category, for example, then now that service page is relevant to all of the search queries that are associated with that category. And so if you then publish blog posts targeting search queries that are associated with that category, those blog posts now become competing pages, or at least potentially competing pages with the top level page. And that's where the problem is. And so getting back to what I started saying about, I understand why SEO agencies do consistent and regular publishing for their clients, because it's a consistent deliverable that is a revenue generator for the agency. But the problem is, if you're not doing it properly, if you're not creating and publishing the content properly and being very intentional about how you title and how you title the supporting content as a post, whether it's a post or a supporting page within a site, like a child page of a particular, top level category or whatever, if you're not careful about how you title those and interlink them too, then you can create competing pages. But if you do it the way that David is describing in his comment, and again, that is, let me read this one more time, guys. question on cannibalization theory with an example. If we have a definitive tummy tuck procedure page and we publish a blog article that discusses the topic but does not use the exact match entity tummy tuck in the SEO title or the H1 and avoids procedure style intent. I'm going to talk about intent here in just a minute too. Do you consider that semi-safe from cannibalization or from competing pages? Yes. And that is the way to do it. But most agencies aren't doing that. Most SEOs work that I review. I'm not saying some people do it right, but a lot of them aren't because they're still stuck. I don't know why. I think, it's been so long now that the algorithm has changed away from keywords. I just don't understand why so many agencies are still optimizing for keywords. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Okay. So that is the best way to do it, in my opinion, is you got to be intentional about how you're publishing the content and how you're titling supporting content. And remember, the titles include SEO title and H1. The SEO title is the meta title. The H1 is the page or post title, right? So those are both titles, okay? And so David was 100% correct in his assumption. That is the best way to do it. The other way to do it, which is a safer way, and it's an easier way, if you're going to be targeting keywords instead of creating and publishing supporting content to support a broader entity or category. That's what David was asking. What he just mentioned is producing supporting content to support a top level category, right? Service or product or service category in this case. Okay. And then you could also do that with location pages and supporting location posts. You could do the same thing. Okay. That is the right way to do it. But the other way to do it, to be a little bit safer, if you're going to be targeting keywords, right, and still titling supporting content with keywords that could compete with the top level category page, is publish it on an external domain. And that's what I've been talking about, an extension of the brand. So a branded Web 2.0, Medium, Tumblr, WordPress, Google Sites, any one of those. Like, it doesn't matter, just pick them. Social media, you could do LinkedIn articles, right? You could do a number of different types of things to still publish content, supporting content that you can have an internal, I say internal link, but a link within the content body of that page or post that links back or links to the top level page on the site that you're actually really trying to promote. You can still do all of that on external domains or a subdomain. That's something that we're launching at Semantic Links. We're going to be launching hopefully by the end of this month. I've got a whole new platform that Jeremy from Press Advantage actually built in part at my request. No kidding. I'm so glad he did it too. But it's to where we are going to start offering content marketing services, content marketing and publishing services for our white label link building clients. We've avoided that specifically because we don't want to work on other people's websites. We don't want access to other companies, other agencies, clients' websites and all of that. But this solves the problem, which I just started to bring up, which was to publish on a blog, a subdomain of the root domain. So all of your blog posts, your supporting posts, are published on a subdomain of the root domain. And we can do that from the new platform that Jeremy has been building. So that and they're HTML blog post pages. It's not a CMS. It's not WordPress. It's none of that crap with all the bloated code. And I hate WordPress anyways. Anybody who's been following us for any amount of time knows that. But it's very clean, properly structured HTML pages that are structured specifically to rank and for AI ingestion, right? Formatted in a very, Jeremy and I have consulted on this for weeks. So it's being built in a very specific structure with HTML pages that load incredibly fast and that have, again, proper structure for them to much more likely be referenced in AI search overviews and language model search, chat AI search, all that kind of stuff, okay? And so that's another way you could do it is on a subdomain, right? Is publish the blog post, because Google treats a subdomain as a totally separate site from the root domain. Even though Google treats the subdomain as a separate site from the root domain, there's still benefit from publishing on a subdomain because any links that are built to the subdomain pages or posts benefit the parent domain. In other words, the root domain, the parent domain, inherits the link authority and relevance that is being received by any of the posts published on the subdomain. So one of the services that we're going to be launching, again, hopefully by the end of this month, is going to be content marketing and publishing services for our agency clients, where we've avoided that because we never wanted to publish directly on their site. We do some content marketing on their branded Web 2s, their the press advantage organization page and things like that. But that's basically just link building content. But what I'm talking about is actually building branded content where we're, that is the brand is taking ownership and authorship of the content. And when we can publish it for them on subdomains with this new platform with HTML blog post pages, right? Which is incredible because they load fast, they will rank well. They will also rank well in AI search. So that's, again, the best way to do it. So David, that was an outstanding question. Let me finish up the question because there's a little bit more. In other words, is the issue primarily exact match entity competition in primary ranking signals rather than blogging itself? Yes, that is precisely it. But you described it very elegantly, right? A lot of the agencies, I just had a call with an agency owner last week, or it might've been Monday. I can't remember because I've been sick for the last few days and it's been a blur and I tried to work, but I had a call with an agency owner. I think it was last week. Anyways, he's an older gentleman, but a nice guy, and he's got a great big agency. They serve a lot of clients. And, but when we got on the call, I was, one of the things he said on his own, I didn't even prompt him to say it. I didn't ask him this, but he just said, we've been blogging for our clients once a week, every week. And I've got some clients, we've been doing that for 7 years. And I kind of went like this, like on the call. And I waited for him to finish. But he specifically the client that he brought to me for the sales call. So I always offer a free competitive link analysis report for any one of the client campaigns that the agency has. And we review that campaign data on the sales call. And when he brought a particular client in, it was a home remodeling company. And so he said, this client, we've been having a real hard time. They getting them to perform well at all in search. And he said, we've been publishing blog posts every week for like 7 years. That's what he said to me. And that's when I was like, and so I waited for him to finish. And then I was like, I said to him, I said, well, that's probably one of the reasons why the campaign's not performing. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, well, here's why. And I just went through everything that I just explained to you guys, basically. And I was like, do you understand what's going on here? Like that, like literally you're competing against the pages and posts on the site are competing with each other. And therefore Google doesn't know what to do because there's so many pages and posts. Let's just say pages and posts are one and the same. There's so many pages on the site targeting the same keyword. Google has no idea which the appropriate one is. So it's just not ranking any of them, or they'll get impressions, but way down in the search results. And sure enough, typically on the sales calls, I have the competitive link analysis report, the written report that my team generates, but I don't really get a chance to go over the full analysis at that time. So I usually reserve that for after the call. And in a day or two later, I send a separate screencast video recording where I thoroughly go through like what we're looking at the data, where I see opportunities, where I see room for improvement, and in which of our services I would recommend for that campaign if they were going to use our services. And so when I had a chance to fully review the competitive link analysis report and record the review video, I literally told him, I said, listen, well, by the way, on that call, the sales call, I did convince him. I didn't have to convince him. I offered to him, hey, I have a full SEO audit service that is specifically for analyzing the on-page factors and a very thorough analysis. And I said, and I will provide you very specific details on how to clean things up, how to structure pages. I give multiple examples, the main optimization elements of the page, titles, headings, subheadings, internal links, media, etc., and show you how to do all of that stuff. And I said, so I would consider that. I said, look, we can just do the competitive link analysis and I'll review the on-page factors briefly, but the competitive link analysis is an off-page analysis. But what I've learned is I can't just recommend links without looking at the on-page factors, because if I do that and there's on-page optimization issues, then no amount of links in the world are going to help it to perform better. Or it might respond to the links, but not nearly as well as it should have if the on-page were better. And so I've learned as, a link building provider that if I'm going to provide a competitive link analysis report, I have to look at the on-page factors too. And if I identify anything that is glaring, right, that just jumps out at me as saying this is poorly done or it needs improvement, then I will then recommend to the client, like, listen, I cannot recommend any links at this time until you clean this stuff up. And I have a full SEO audit service specifically for identifying the issues and providing specific recommendations on how to improve it. And so on the sales call, he said, you know what, let's just go ahead and order the full SEO audit. So I sent him the checkout link and he checked out. And that's what it was. I did the audit for him last week. And so I use Website Auditor. to crawl the site as Googlebot, or as the Google, as the user agent is the Googlebot. And then, so that way I can see what Google sees when it crawls the site. And this is no joke, guys. There was over 1,250 pages on the site because of all the posts. And there was only 338 pages on the site that were indexed. Think about that, guys. That's precisely what I'm talking about, and gets back to David's question. It's because they had been publishing blog posts for like 7 years, like he said, there were literally over 1,200 pages on the site. And I extracted, this was a home remodeling company in Seattle. I'm not going to give up the name, obviously, but it was a home remodeling company in Seattle. So I took every single page or post on the site that said home remodeling Seattle in the SEO title, and I put it in the next sheet of the CSV because I get it's an Excel file that's exported from a, website auditor, excuse me. And so I created a new sheet and I extracted or copied and pasted every one of the pages. There was 67 pages on the site targeting home remodeling Seattle. And his question was, I don't understand why this campaign is not performing. You understand? I'm not picking on that guy, by the way. I'm serious. I'm not picking on him at all, because there's a lot of agencies and SEOs out there that are not keeping up with the times. And they think, well, I just need to publish more content. What has been the SEO's answer to everything for the last however many years? More content, more words on the page. That'll fix it. You know what I mean? But that's not how the algorithm works anymore. And so when I brought that to his attention, it was very stark. Like, I mean, I said, look, there's only 338 pages out of 1,250-ish that should be indexed based upon your sitemaps. If you go look at the sitemaps, by the way, guys, stop using all the sitemaps, like post tag sitemaps and category sitemaps. Stop all that. Keep the page sitemap, the post sitemap. And if you have special sitemaps like service or service category sitemaps and things, fine. But get rid of all of that stuff that you're telling Google to crawl and index that are non-essential pages, because that creates crawl resistance, right? Points at crawl resistance. Thanks to Cecilia, one of our former mastermind members. I don't know if she's even still in the mastermind. She coined that term, crawl resistance. But that is exactly what the helpful content update is targeted, right? The more, the harder it is for Google to crawl and understand the site, or the more resistance it has to crawl and understand the site, the lesser it performs. It lowers the site quality score and therefore will not perform as well in search. And so get rid of all of that redundancy and duplication. Like, again, exclude non-essential sitemap types from the sitemap. You want to exclude them, and you want to set those to no index. If there's a reason that you think Google needs to crawl those pages, set them to no index follow. But if most of the time there's no reason for Google to even crawl those pages, so set them to no index, no follow, right? So exclude from sitemap, set to no index, no follow, or if you feel it's absolutely necessary for Google to crawl them, fine, set it to no follow or no index follow. You understand? But I'm telling you guys, I mean, the amount of bad SEO that I see out there right now is just unbelievable. And and I even say this in my videos, not to be a jerk. I mean, I always preface my audit videos with, my delivery is likely going to be harsh when I find some criticism of the work that I'm analyzing here, but understand why my criticism is a bit harsh, right? Or the delivery of my criticism may be harsh. It's because here's an agency that's going out there and selling marketing services to local businesses and telling them, we can get you results. Just use our services. We promise we'll get you results. And then they're doing this stuff, right? And it's like, that to me is unethical. Why would you go out there and sell a service that isn't performing, but you're claiming that it performs? You've got a wheelhouse of clients, right, that are not performing well, and you're not changing your tactics, but you're still out there acquiring more clients. To me, that's unethical, right? You should be ashamed of yourself. And I say that in a way that I try not to be offensive in the videos, but some people still get offended, by the way, because I get replies back, not all the time, but sometimes, from the client is like, you can tell their feelings are hurt. And I'm like, I always try to say, look, don't take it personal. And by the way, I'll spend an hour and 15 minutes recording a video. And now I do it in separate sections, one for each section of the audit. Makes it easier to consume, digest. It makes it easier for the team to follow, like the on-page team, et cetera. But I'll spend all that time being as thorough as I can and explaining not just why it's wrong, like, what's wrong and how to fix it, but then why. Because my goal is not to give a man a fish, it's to teach a man to fish. You get what I'm saying? And so even though I say at the beginning, like, hey, don't take offense to this, like if I'm harsh, it's coming from my intentions are pure, right? I want to help. And that's why I'm going to spend so much time in this audit, these videos, trying to explain not just what to fix, but why I suggest whatever recommendation it is that I make, because I want you to learn from it so that you understand the concepts, and then you can apply those to subsequent campaigns, right? And I say that all the time, and yet some people still get upset because, you know, I criticize their work. Get over it, man. It's business. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to be offensive or condescending or insulting in any way, shape, or form. So anyways, that's a great topic. I really appreciate the question from David, because guys, I'm telling you, if you're going to be blogging, if you do it intentionally the way that David posed in his question, that's the way to do it. On the same domain, I mean. If you're going to be less intentional about it and just spray and pray content, then do it on external domains or do it on a subdomain. Does that make sense? That's the easiest and safest way to do it. So anyways, I think that's a great question and probably one of the best questions we've had in weeks. Perfect. All right, guys. Now I've got some questions and comments that I'm going to go through. The first one was from Mustin. I'm not even going to try to say your name, buddy. Jake says, where do I join the paid mastermind newsletter? Did you guys post a link for that yet? Oh, I see it. Okay, cool. Okay, I've seen many people changing the focus keyword slug in a ranked post, and the rank on the new changed focus. I see many people changing the focus keyword or slug in a ranked post, and the rank on the new changed focus. I'm not sure I understand the question. Is there a follow-up later? Yeah, I'm sorry. If you can I'm sorry, I just can't understand the question. If you can reword it, I'm happy to try to answer the question, man. I just don't understand the question. I've seen many people changing the focus keyword slug in a ranked post, and the rank on the new changed focus. I'm not sure that what I can't interpret that. I apologize. If you can reword it a bit, rephrase it, maybe add a little bit more detail to that question, I promise I'll answer it. Okay. All right. Next one is Jake and Lucas Marking. What press release distribution do you recommend? Pressadvantage.com. Go check it out. You could schedule a call with Jeremy, the owner. Pressadvantage.com is freaking amazing. I've been using it now for, I think, 12 years, since 2014. Yeah. When they first launched, I was on their launch webinar, and I've been with them ever since. And I've used multiple other press releases services in addition to Press Advantage over the years. Always come back to well, I never left Press Advantage. I've just always kept Press Advantage and always canceled all the other services that I've ever tested. So Press Advantage is amazing. Jeremy's awesome. He's a friend of us, of our company, and a colleague and a friend. And I've developed a relationship over the years, and he's built a lot of features into it at my request, and other SEOs that he engages with. But it's really good, and they have one of the best distribution networks in the business. No kidding. They're not cheap, but they're effective, and that's why. And that's, by the way, that's why they're not cheap, because it is effective, and because they have one of the best distribution networks in the business. No kidding. He's very particular about. Look, a lot of press release distribution services out there build a whole bunch of shitty WordPress sites, and that's what they call their distribution network. That's total spam, guys. They're just literally blowing smoke up your ass to take your money. No kidding. That's complete garbage. And there's a lot of release distribution services out there that are just like that. Jeremy's been very particular about eliminating any of those kind of spam publications from his networks. That's why it's not cheap, but he has a few different levels. And I would encourage you, I think if you go to pressadvantage.com, you can actually book a call with, I think, Jeremy directly, but if not, I think he's got some salespeople too. But anyways, just, book a call with him and have a chat with him and see if it's appropriate for you. Okay. All right. It's a good one. Costco says, Bradley, do you use the same GHO number for all review campaigns across all your clients, or a unique number for each client? We use a unique number for each client. We use the same email, at least initially. If I sell a tree service contractor on a review service only, for example, then I will use the same feedback@rating.page. That's the email. So I got rating.page as a domain, and I set up a workspace account on that. And then in Go High Level, you can create an app password so that you can use Workspace as an SMTP email provider through Go High Level. I don't know if you know this, but you create an app password once, you can use that same email address across as many sub accounts as you want, right? Only one app password is needed. It's the same app password. And that way so that's what I did. I created feedback@rating.page. And that is the email address that I use for all sub accounts that I create for tree service clients, that until they get to a certain level, subscription level, retainer level, at which point then I will, if they don't already have their own Workspace account, then I will set up as part of retainer, their subscription, I will set up a separate, domain specific workspace account for them, which then becomes the email account for the sub account. But until they get to a certain level, which is one of my full local SEO retainer packages, then I just use feedback@rating.page. Unless if they have their own workspace account, then I would just, integrate their workspace. But most companies, or at least most tree contractors, don't have workspace accounts. And so I'll use feedback@rating.page. But I was issuing an 800 number for each, because you don't have to go through the A2P process, but you still have to go through the 800 registration process. So I was issuing an 800 number for each sub account, a separate 800 number dedicated to that sub account, or toll-free number, 800 number, toll-free number, whatever you want to call it. Because for a period of time, it was a much faster process to get, register an 800 and verify an 800 number or a toll-free number. But actually right now, over at least the last 5 or so sub accounts that I've created, A2P is much faster. It used to take, sometimes 10, anywhere between 10 to 21 days to get a local number through A2P verification. And it would only take 3 to 5 days for a toll-free number to be verified. And so whenever I start a review campaign for a client, I usually tell them we're going to start in about 7 days, because then I would go register the phone number, and I would go through the process of registration. And then that would give them a week to collect and send me their contact list. Then I would add as the first set of contacts to do the outreach for the review campaign. But what I found, like I said, over maybe the last 5 or so sub accounts that I've created, is that with A2P registration, you got to pay $25 though. But with that $25 registration fee, I found that usually you can be verified within 3 days. And so, like I said, I would usually tell a client, we'd use my own feedback@rating.page domain or email account through Workspace. And then I would either issue an 800 number or a local number. And by the way, in my intake form for clients, it literally captures all the information that I need to do the A2P registration for them. Right. So it just makes it easier now to do that. And so, I just roll that into the service. Like for my review campaign service, it's a $2.99 setup fee. And that covers the costs of A2P registration, buying a domain for them if I have to, pays for the phone number, pays for my time to set it up, or, one of my team members' time, et cetera. So hopefully that answers your question. Do you use PBNs? Yes, Edwin. Yes, we do. Jake and Lucas Marketing says, is there merit in running simple social media ads that direct to the client's website to boost SEO? Probably. I don't do ads really at all, paid ads. I mean, I got a few clients that I run YouTube ads for, and a couple of clients that I do remarketing ads from Google's display network. And then I've got one client, a tree service client, that I manage his local service ads accounts. The only client I've ever managed that for, which is super easy to manage, by the way. And it's actually, I think it's more effective than search ads. Like, no shit. It's way easier to manage too. And I've only had one client my entire career that did local service ads, and I'm still managing his account now, actually. But yeah, social referral traffic is a good signal. Do you understand? That's a great signal. I don't know if Google separates paid social from organic social. I don't know that it can know that. I don't, probably could from the URL pattern that brought them in. It probably does know, because, they know everything now, but I don't know for sure. But social media referral traffic is definitely good. So it would be worth testing. If you're comfortable setting up social media ads, try it, test it, throw $100 into just $100 into a campaign and see if it boosts any SEO. Remember, perform a rank tracker report when the day that you start the campaign, and make a note of it, and then run just $100 and test on an ad campaign, social media referral traffic to the target URL or the domain, the target domain. And then at the end of that $100, rerun the rank report and compare them. And as long as you weren't doing other things during that time, and $100, you could probably run through that in, a week or 10 days, something like that, probably. Maybe sooner, depending on how aggressive you are and how broad your targeting is. But what I recommend, if you're going to do that, is the same thing that I recommend when using display ads for CTR, right? And by the way, that is effective. At least it was. I haven't really tested that in the last probably 3 years, but I'm assuming it's still effective. And that is, if you have your audience targeting right, then those links, those clicks from those visitors are going to be weighted heavier. In other words, if you just do some generic campaign where you're getting random link clicks to the site, that's not going to be beneficial because Google has a profile history on those visitors, most likely. Think about it, guys. Nobody on the world in the world anymore, unless they don't have internet access, Google has built a profile on every one of us, right? They have a history of what we engage with online, our activities. They have so do all the other major companies too, by the way. But Google has so much information about us that when a link click comes in from a visitor, Google knows who that visitor is and what they're into, what they've been viewing online recently, what their affinities are, which mean long-term interests are, what they might be in market for. That's what I was getting at. When you get to and by the way, at the end of David's question previously, he talked about intent. I want to talk about that too. So Chris or somebody remind me about intent if I don't remember it. Link clicks from random people that don't have any known history for that. I'm not saying that somebody that never had an interest in anything all of a sudden now has a specific need for something and now they have an interest. But if you have link clicks coming in from profiles, right? So Google user profiles, so even if you're directing traffic from Facebook or TikTok or something else, I almost guarantee you that persona, that person that clicked has a Google profile. And so when they click to the website, if the website has analytics on it or, tag manager or Google fonts or anything else, or it's a Chrome browser that the visitor was using Google's tracking absolutely every movement from that visitor. And if that visitor has in their profile, Google's profile history of that visitor, that they have an affinity for that topic or a sudden interest because maybe perhaps they're in market for a product or service because they have a specific need. Now that link click is going to be weighted much heavier. In other words, it's going to produce a much stronger signal. Do you understand? Like a random, that's why CTR doesn't work nearly as well as it used to, guys. And in fact, I think CTR manipulation is dangerous. Like just using stupid bots, like with mobile proxies and everything, because yeah, you might be able to simulate a local click using CTR campaigns, but the profile history of that clicker, so to speak, is not relevant. It's very likely not relevant to whatever it's clicking on. You understand? So that's why I said Google ads, using like display ads. I've done that for years, by the way. Using Google Display Network ads, you can go in and set very specific if it's for a local campaign, very specific geographic targeting. You could do it by radius, or you could do it by specific area. Like you can list zip codes or city or town names or a county name or region name, a state name. You could do it any which number of ways, or you can even just say just within a 10-mile radius or a 5-mile radius or whatever of the business location. And then you set the audience segmenting for what I always like to use was the in-market segment, right? The in-market segment means that is a bucket of Google users that Google has already identified are likely interested in that specific product or service because of recent activities, search history, website visit history, even physical location visit history. In other words, if you've got a mobile phone that has Google Maps on it, right? I don't know if you saw my phone, a mobile phone with Google Maps on it and location turned on, Google knows where that Google user is going on a daily basis, which stores they visit, like physical stores that they actually go to. And so let's say, for example, tree service industry, I set 10-mile radius around where the tree service business is located. And then I select an in-market audience an in-market segment, that is interested in lawn and landscape services, right? There's home services, I think. And then one of the subcategories is lawn and landscape. And so if I go and select set a very specific geographic target, and then say, I only want the ad to be shown to any Google user within this targeted area that is in this bucket of in-market, potential Google users that are interested or likely in market for this product or service, then those clicks are going to be weighted so much heavier than just some random clicks, even from other, users even in that local area, right? Again, if somebody goes to Google search on their own and searches for it and then clicks through, that's an even better signal, no doubt. But if you're going to be just sending link click signals to the campaign, then setting your audience targeting, you're segmenting it properly is going to make those links more valuable, those clicks more valuable. Does that make sense? Hopefully that's clear. Okay. Let's see.
Intent.
Yeah, intent. Yeah, I know. I'm going to get to that too. We only got 15 minutes. All right, let me talk. I see a few other questions too, but I do want to talk about something else, guys, because that first question was amazing. I want to talk about that too. When it comes to blogging, one thing I think now is that local SEO sites or local sites should be optimized specifically for bottom of funnel keywords, right? So keywords with commercial or transactional intent. That's it. Not informational queries, right? Stop publishing informational queries on the site. It's not a goddamn blog. It's a site to generate leads for the products or services that the company provides. So stop treating it like a blog. For example, back to that case that I described earlier about the home remodeling company in Seattle. Something like 1,250 pages, only 338 pages indexed, and there were like 900 pages of blog posts or whatever. So, by the way, on that call, the SEO that I was talking to said, we get tons of traffic to the site, but it's non-local. It's traffic on like kitchen design ideas, like kitchen, design ideas, and, the best flooring type for a high-end remodel, things like that. And I said, well, do you understand why it's not? Because Google has classified the site as a blog, not as a local site, not as a local services site, because the content of the site is so imbalanced in the blog section that Google is treating it as a blog. So that's what I mean by intent. Guys, think about the intent. What do you want Google to think about the site? Is the site a blog, or is the site a local services site or a product site or whatever? Okay. And so if you're publishing blog content and the blog content outweighs the product and service pages on the site and or location pages, then Google's going to consider, at some point, there's a tipping point where Google says, this is not a local services site, this is a blog. And therefore it's not going to rank for any type of local search queries, even if there's pages on the site optimized for that, because the vast majority of the traffic is coming from non-local traffic for informational type queries. So think about that, guys. What you should be doing is optimizing the sites entirely for bottom of funnel keywords, and then save all your informational top of funnel or middle of funnel keywords or search queries. I hate the word keywords anymore. I really do. It should be search queries, in my opinion. Save all of that content for external domains, social media posts, and press releases and things like that, right? External sources. Do all of that externally with links pointing to the transactional site that is focused entirely on bottom of funnel with transactional or commercial intent. You understand? Do that, and I promise you, you'll start seeing better results from your sites, because Google's classified that now as a local services site, not a blog, right? So anyway, moving on. Thank you, Chris, for reminding me. Next one was... Sorry, there's a lot of questions today. I was afraid we weren't going to have many because the questions form wasn't up for the last 10 days or whatever. All right, next one was Costco again. I want to offer database reactivation for reviews, since that front end offer provides the most tangible results compared to the other ones. So I can transition the full SEO retainer. Perfect. That is what I do. I love that. That's the great strategy. You lead with the reviews service, but let me demonstrate this. Actually, you can even see it on my checkout page. It's reviews.treecarehq.com. Go check it out yourself if you want. I'm going to pull up the screen right now. But that is the reviews campaign includes the comeback campaign, which is a database or list reactivation campaign. I tell tree contractors it's a comeback campaign. So let me show you the screen real quick. And I finally figured out how to keep everything in one window, and while I'm using StreamYard. Okay, so this is it. This is what I call shaking the bushes for tree guys, but it's list reactivation and reviews management. And so I say it's a discount funnel for comeback campaign, which is reactivation. And then what we do is we do the reactivation campaign, and then we also include 4 seasonal tree care offers via email, like as a newsletter. So that at this, around the start or the change of each season, we send out a specific comeback offer, which is, again, just this is the discount funnel. This is an example of a discount funnel that I post for the clients to see when they go to the checkout page. But then, so we do the comeback campaign initially. And here's the thing. You can do, when you get the contact list from your client, you can upload import the contact list in the high level or whatever service you're using. And you initiate the comeback campaign first. And then whatever customers decline the comeback offer, then you follow up with, okay, well, no problem, but the reason we reached out is because you were a past customer of ours. Would you be so kind as to leave us a brief review? Because that certainly helps our business, blah, blah, blah. Right. So it's a dual purpose service. That's why I wrapped it all up one and the same here. You see what I'm saying? It's because we do the discount funnel. And again, this is all set up. When I set up the sub account, it's all automatically set up because I built a bunch of automations for that. And so, again, when my clients fill out the intake form, then that all of the data is already available for when we deploy the sub account. It automatically creates these. Like, by the way, remember how I said feedback.rating.page? Well, we do the all the comeback offers on claim.page. So I bought rating.page and I paid $800 a piece for each of these domains. No kidding. Claim.page and I spent $1,600 on 2 domains to buy these domains, but I bought claim.page and rating.page. And so for like tree service clients, like we'll put the company name .claim.page and that's their, company name .rating.page. And that's their review page. Like, in other words, tree service clients, like I set up on their company name .rating.page. It's another landing page where, let me demonstrate that. I'll just demonstrate that. This would be, I think it's boxtreecare.rating.page. Oh, that one's not up right now. No, you know why? Because I don't have, I misspelled it. That's why. And this one might not be up right now because he goes into the app. There it is. Okay, there it is. So this is the rating.page, this is for the client to then at the end of every job or at the end of every day or once a week, whatever, for the client to just come in and add the customer's information for the jobs that they closed. See what I'm saying? So again, I use the comeback offer, what I call shaking the bushes. And why do I say that? Because what happens when you shake bushes? Money falls out. That's why I always make a joke to the tree service contractors about that. But this is a great setup, guys. And this is a fantastic way to build rapport and a good working relationship with the client because you can show them results very quickly with this type of a service. And it's very inexpensive. I do a $2.99 setup fee, but it's only $99 a month. Does that make sense? It's just $2.99 setup fee. And then sometimes I will waive that fee or reduce it. If they buy more than one of my front end services together, then I will only charge one setup fee for however, like I have 3 front end services, local lead gen sites, Google Business, basic SEO. And in those are my 3 front end services. And I would charge $2.99 setup fee for each service unless they order multiple services together at once. And then I just only charge them one setup fee, if that's clear. But this is a fantastic way, man, to get in very inexpensively, which makes it much easier to close the sale. You show them results in the first month. And then I take those results and I then pitch them on, look what we were able to achieve in just 1 month. However, until your website and your Google Business profile are in better shape, the results that we've seen are probably going to be temporary. So if you really want to maintain the new exposure that you've gained over the last month, then I suggest that you consider a new site or a Google Business profile optimization or both. And sometimes I can even pitch them and ascend them all the way up into a higher level full retainer package at that point, which is, a larger package than just the front end services. Okay. That's a great question. All right. Next one's Costco again. Do you know any white label provider for database reactivation? No, but you could probably just do some Google searches and find somebody or go to the, I'd say go to the high level Facebook group, but you'll get spammed to death if you do that. So don't do that. All right. Edwin says, what is the best practice to create PBNs? Hide your footprint. That's the most important thing. Hide your footprint. Go look at Mentorprise. Let me pull that up real quick. You guys are still seeing my screen. I'm sorry. Mentorprise. Go check this out. They've even got a lot of training about it. Mentorprise.io. Okay. Go check it out. Go look at them, guys. They're inexpensive. You can scale very rapidly with them. And they've got a lot of training on how to set all that shit up in their site. This is a really, really good resource for not only learning how to build PBNs, but also for hosting and scaling a PBN. No kidding. Go mentorprise.io. Go take a look at it. It's very valuable. Costco says currently just offering lead gen sites and local SEO, but reviews sound like an easier sell. It is 100%. It's an easier sell. I've sold more review campaigns as a front end service than anything else. I wish I would have started on that years ago. Pro Engineering says, does a sitemap crawl include subdomains? Or do you create a separate sitemap for each subdomain? Create a separate sitemap for subdomains. Jake and Lucas Marketing, should we should a sitemap page on our website linked in the footer that has all the pages on the site? If you're having an indexing issue with the site, then yes. Not if the site's indexing fine, don't do that. But yeah, I've done that many times. Yeah, if you're having an issue with indexing, then yes, put a link to an HTML sitemap in the footer, not an XML sitemap, an HTML sitemap. Okay, that can help. And by the way, you can build some links to the HTML sitemap page, right? Seriously, do that. That'll help those to index too. Make sure they're proper links. By the way, if you need proper links, I know a good provider. All right, proper topical relevance or geographic relevance or both. Check out Semantic Links. All right, next one is I changed the meta title, SEO title, but still on Google, I see the company name as a meta title and not the one I did. Yeah, Google will do that. Google will do that if it thinks it's more relevant than the SEO title. And by the way, Google will sometimes replace the SEO title in the search results with an H1, and I've even seen an H2 as the SEO title or the meta title in the search results. I'm no kidding. I've seen that 2 or 3 times, but I've seen often, very often, where Google will display the H1 instead of the SEO title because it thinks it's more relevant to the query. So, you know, you can do some things to try to force that. Like again, build. Well, I don't recommend building a lot of keyword anchors to your pages because brand anchors are the most effective. But you could try to get a really strong anchor text link with the keyword to that specific page, and that might help Google to force the change to whatever SEO title you wanted. What I said keyword, but whatever the SEO title is that you want Google to show, if you were able to. And if it were keywords, I'd be careful with it. But if it's a, you know, a proper type of a title that wouldn't be spammy, then you could do either a handful of links or one really particularly strong link that has that exact phrase, maybe not the whole phrase, but the term that you're really trying to target as a link to that page. You might be able to get Google to recognize that and keep it. But again, Google's going to make that decision on its own. Also, you might be able to influence that with schema, alternate name or something. You might be able to mess around with schema a bit and get it to take 2. All right. Pro Engineering says, please drop a link for this SEO audit. Man, we don't have our affiliate link yet. Do we, Adam? Are you on? Adam still? I know I see you muted. If we have a separate link for Semantic Mastery, affiliate link for Semantic Links. If not,
I need to take a look. I don't know if we have one going direct to the audit, but let me check real quick.
See if you can check. If Adam can find it, yes. If not, I'll just send you the direct link in Semantic Mastery. I'll owe you guys a couple bucks. Okay. Yeah, I'll send you the link to the audit. I promise you'll learn something from that. As a matter of fact, you know, I found it. It's easier to teach the concepts that I teach in the Semantic Mastery Mastermind through an actual audit. Like, no kidding, because then you see the concepts applied to a specific campaign. If you want to learn my methodology for SEO, the fastest way is to get an audit for a particular campaign that you work on. Because again, I'm very, very thorough. And now my audits include multiple explainer videos about the concepts for each specific component. There's 4 components to the audit: entity analysis or branded business location authority analysis, on-page optimization for the self-hosted site. Those are the 2 most important things. I've been talking about this for years. Most important things in local SEO: branded location authority and site efficiency, right? Branded location authorities. That's why it's entity analysis is the first component of the audit. On-page optimization, self-hosted site, which influences or affects site efficiency, is component number 2. Then Google Business Profile optimization, on-page optimization, that's component number 3. And then off-page off-page analysis, which is backlink analysis, but with off-page, there's also engagement signals. Now, that's not something that we can track unless we had access to Search Console, Analytics, and Google Business Insights. And as a white label provider, I don't want that access to your client stuff because that can get messy. And so we just use rank reports instead. So for off-page analysis, we just focus on links, but off-page also includes engagement signals, just to be clear. All right. All right, we're almost done. Job Killing says, and we'll get this link to you, Pro Engineering, I promise. Do you use the Surfer Seo or Page Optimizer Pro in your content production process? No, I think that's ridiculous. And I'm not picking on you. But unless you're a national or like global campaign type stuff, for local, it's overkill. And it's like a dog chasing its tail. It's a negative feedback loop. No kidding. Think about it. What do those tools do? They scrape the top 20 results, which oftentimes have over-optimized results. And then they tell you just exceed the optimization of these other results and you'll outrank them. That was a tactic that used to, now they may have improved all of their services, because I stopped using those services 4 years ago, specifically for what I'm talking about now. I'm assuming a lot of those tools and services have improved and changed their methodology a bit. I haven't even logged into one of those tools in, at least 3 years. I use on-page AI, by the way, on-page.ai. Go check it out. That's Eric Lancheraz's tool. That's what I use, but I don't use it for on-page optimization. No kidding. I use it because it has a link relevancy. There's link relevancy tools or functions within that application that integrate with Google's natural language AI. And that's what I use it specifically for link relevancy, but not for on page, because I think it's overkill. And I think it's like a dog chasing its tail. Like, no kidding, because it's at least it used to be where they would tell you to over optimize above what everyone else is doing. And that, to me, like, again, what was the answer to all SEO for all SEOs over the last many years? More content, throw more words on the page. Let's squeeze more entities in the page and all that. Look, my theory on local SEO is that Google, because of the helpful content update, is looking for shortcuts to determine what the page is about. So Google scans the main optimization elements of the page. I talk about this all the time. What are those? Well, it starts with the URL, always. That's how the page was found or discovered to begin with, was the URL. That's the first main optimization element. What is number two? Titles, which includes SEO title, meta title, and which is the meta title, and the H1, which is the page or post title. Okay, so now we've covered URL titles, which includes the SEO title and H1. Then there's headings, which are H2s. Then subheadings, which are H3s, 4s, 5s, etc. Then there's media and internal links. Those are the main optimization elements of the page. That is what Google scans and the language models scan to quickly understand what the page is about. So optimize for the bots, for the algorithms at the main optimization elements. The paragraph text between the optimization elements should be optimized for humans to convert the human into whatever conversion goal you want them to take, whatever action you want them to take. If you do that, you've satisfied the bots, but now the content is specifically written to convert the human, right? Which I think is a way better way to do SEO, because the way that we used to have to squeeze keywords and look, nobody goes to a fucking page about tree trimming and wants to read 3,000 words. Nobody does that, guys. But we all used to do that because that's how we used to have to rank stuff, but we don't have to do that anymore. If you have a page that is very clearly structured with the main optimization elements targeting the entities related to tree trimming in this example, then every paragraph text or all the paragraph text between those main optimization elements should be to very briefly describe only the most essential information for the consumer to understand what to expect when they request that service. That's it, right? That's it. If you do that, that makes the site a hell of a lot more. I mean, you could go from 3,000 words down to 600 words on the page, no kidding, and still do really, really well, if not outrank the 3,000 word walls of text pages that the old SEOs are still doing. So optimize with efficiency, guys. Again, helpful content update is specifically about site efficiency. It's two most important things: branded location authority, site efficiency. Make the site more efficient. Easier for Google and the language models to crawl the page and understand what it's about through the main optimization elements, right? All the other text on the site should be to convert the visitor, in my opinion, okay? And I've done a lot of testing on this and it works. So, all right, perfect. Thank you, Adam. That was awesome. All right, last question, guys, because we're 3 minutes over and then we're going to wrap up. Job Killing says, do you know any trustworthy? Oh, no, that was the same one. No, I'm sorry. Sorry, that was a database reactivation question. Do you know any trustworthy and reliable white label local SEO service I can use to build out and optimize websites and GBP listings? Semantic Links are Semantic SEO, which will be merging into Semantic Links. We're going to merge them this month at some point. But we do have under Semantic SEO services, Google Business Profile Optimization. We will not do the on-page optimization of the self-hosted site. We're not going to touch your client site. But we will do the Google Business Profile Optimization and branded assets and citation building and press releases and content marketing on external domains. We'll do all of that for you. Go check out semanticseo.pro. And you can schedule a call with me if you'd like, and we can have a chat about it. I do not do hard sales pitches. So Job Killing, seriously, go to semanticseo.pro. You'll see at the bottom of the page, there's a calendar widget. You can schedule a call directly with me. Let's have a 30-minute chat, discuss the campaign. I'll tell you what we can do for you. And if it makes sense, let's work together. If not, no harm, no foul. What we can do on the website, as I do have a web development team that can build a site for you. I don't get involved with that, though. I would just refer you to them, and they can build the site for you. And I can provide, and because I work with that company, they're familiar with my process. But what I would recommend is I will provide like the full SEO audit service I've got a lot of link building clients that ask after I deliver an audit service, an audit report, they'll say, can you do all these changes for me? I say, absolutely not. We don't want to touch your client's site, but I do have a web design company that can, and I just send them the audit, the web development team, send them the audit and connect the client with the team. And then they communicate and work it out. I don't even get a cut of it. I don't, I just refer it. Okay. So if you want, we could take a look at your campaigns. We can do all the Google Business SEO, citation building, branded asset building, press releases and content marketing on those branded assets. And then we can provide you with specific guidance and recommendations for how to structure the local site. But then you would be responsible for building the site, or I could pair you up with or refer you to my web development team. You can have a chat with them and see if it's a good fit. Okay. Again, feel free to schedule a call with me, semanticseo.pro. And that's through Semantic Mastery, basically. But yeah, so just check it out. I'd love to have a chat with you. All right, guys, we're done. Thanks, everybody. This was a great conversation for today, and I was worried that we weren't going to have much to talk about. So appreciate you guys. Thanks, everybody, for sticking around. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye, everyone.